尊敬的各位来宾，女士们、先生们，早上好！欢迎来到第10届全球化智库论坛开幕式的现场。
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to all of you and welcome to the 10th China and Globalization Forum.
本届论坛由全球化智库主办，由中美交流基金会协办，以及当代中国与世界研究院支持。
Today's event is hosted by the Center for China and Globalization, co-organized by China-US Exchange Foundation and supported by Academy of Contemporary China and World Studies.
近些年来，全球化智库在加深中国与世界的共识、相互了解，并且应对挑战、提出解决方案上提出了重要贡献，扮演着重要角色。
Over the years, the China and Globalization Forum has emerged as a platform to deepen consensus and mutual understanding, propose solutions to various challenges that we face as humanity.
在此，我们衷心祝愿今年的论坛依旧能够成功举办。
And we are confident that with our collective efforts of everyone present in this room, this year's forum will too be a success.
接下来，让我们以热烈的掌声欢迎开幕式的主持人、全球化智库联合创始人兼秘书长、北京市政协委员苗绿博士主持。
Now let's warmly welcome Dr. Mabel Miao, co-founder and Secretary General of the Center for China and Globalization, member Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference CPPCC Beijing Committee. Let's warmly welcome her to start the opening ceremony.
掌声欢迎。
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends and honorable guests, good morning. Welcome to the 10th China and Globalization Forum. Welcome to Beijing. I am Mabel Miao, Secretary General of Center for China and Globalization. Welcome you to the opening ceremony of this forum. It is my great pleasure to have more than 300 distinguished guests from various institutes, including ambassadors, diplomats from over 20 countries, and experts from dozens of prestigious think tanks, universities, and non-governmental institutions, both from China and around the world. We have senior executives from multinational companies and tens of Chinese and international media outlets are here to cover our forum. During this forum, we will engage in in-depth discussions about the challenges and opportunities faced by globalization. We will discuss widely on topics of geopolitics, global governance, and business strategies. Additionally, we will focus on China's role and contributions within the globalized context. We look forward to hearing from your unique insights and share great wisdom. Now, we are honored to have Dr. Huiyao Wang, the founder and president of Center for China and Globalization, and the former Counselor of State Council of China, to deliver his opening remarks and welcome remarks for our ceremony. Floor is yours, Dr. Wang.
Thank you, Dr. Miao, Vice Minister JIANG, President Wang, Vice President Yu, President Chau, Chairman Ambassador Declan Clare, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's really a great honor to welcome you to the 10th China and Globalization Forum. Welcome to China and welcome to Beijing. So I know many of you are coming back since pandemic for the last 4 years, so it's really a great occasion that we're having this 10th Center for China Globalization Forum. It's a very ideal situation to all come back to a globalized world. So this year actually marked the 10th annual China and Globalization Forum and also 16 years anniversary of founding of Center for China and Globalization. So CCG has always been an enthusiastic advocate for globalization, and it is committed to study the globalization, promote globalization, and also to facilitate global communication and global cooperation. So we want to be a global bridge builder, global connector, and global peace dialoguer. Of course, we know that globalization has brought prosperity, peace, and development since the end of the Cold War, which is almost 80 years now. But unfortunately, it is now, globalization gets a lot of challenges, has become less attractive than it once was. Particularly the past decade, we have witnessed the deglobalization, and also the globalization has faced headwinds and challenges. So this has actually created an unstable world with constant wars and conflicts, humanitarian crises, economic stagnations, and of course, also the uncertainty that we are facing. Meanwhile, the humanity, the global human security, facing rising challenges from geopolitical tensions, climate change, AI, and of course also migration and many other issues. So globalization remains crucial for boosting development and addressing the issues, but it needs to be more inclusive, sustainable, and efficient. And to achieve this goal, stakeholders of different countries must strengthen their relationship through dialogues and cooperation, particularly the main countries of this world. So consequently, CCG has continued its wide engagement with various countries, partners, over the past years to reinforce mutual and common understanding. For example, in 2023, CCG has participated in 27 international forums, organized the 6 global track 2 diplomacy trips, and held 10 large-scale forums. CCG submitted 126 advisory reports to the central government and published 18 books related to policy and globalization research. Over the past year, it has endeavored to bridge the world of different countries and connect various parties and bring counterparts to China to a platform that may find common ground for promoting understanding. This is why we are gathered here today at the 10th China and Globalization Forum. I believe we can strengthen a momentum of globalization through the joint efforts of all our distinguished participants. So compared with past events, the 10th annual forum is somewhat unusual. We extended a one-day schedule to a 2-day full schedule and organized 5 forums and 8 roundtables discussions, cover topics ranging from great power relations, global governance, geopolitical and economic and trade cooperation. After keynote openings this morning, the forum will be dealt with an opening roundtable, will debate with an opening roundtable themed Rethinking Globalization and Global Governance. In this afternoon, we will have 3 roundtables on China-EU relations, global talent mobility and global governance, and business innovation and development. So we have another full day tomorrow. The tomorrow events will focus on China-US relations, climate change, and global trade and business under the contemporary context. In the morning of tomorrow, we will begin with our discussion with our multilateral with 12 ambassadors in China, which is how we have traditionally on the Center for China Globalization Forum, we always have ambassador roundtable, ranging from 10 to 20 ambassadors participated every year, and we'd like to hear from them. And simultaneously, there will be a roundtable for entrepreneurs and business community to exchange ideas on global trade and business exchanges. And tomorrow afternoon, we'll have 3 crucial roundtables to discuss the most challenging issues. The war in Ukraine and also the Middle East. We hope to bring some peace proposals on those war-torn regions. So this year, 2024, is full of uncertainty and also unpredictability. According to The Economist magazine, there are 70 nations' elections scheduled worldwide to cover the 2/3 of the global population. So political transition bring uncertainty. However, they also offer opportunities for dialogue and cooperation. So I want to conclude that CCG is not alone, and of course, we see all the participants coming from all over the world. We have over 100 international participants for this conference. We're so pleased to see many of you coming here today to share your knowledge, your wisdom, your ideas, your constructive proposals for a turbulent time. So I deeply appreciate your participation in the forum and the valuable insights you will contribute to this work. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much from Dr. Wang's wonderful opening remark and welcome remarks. I think your remarks will kickstart a fascinating chapter in our forum. The following speaker of our welcome remarks is Mr. James Chau, President of China-United States Exchange Foundation, which is our co-organizer of this event. Mr. Chau was a long-term television news anchor and was appointed as the World Health Organization Goodwill Ambassador for Sustainable Development Goals, as well as the UNAIDS Goodwill Ambassador. Floor is yours, Mr. Chau. Please join me to welcome Mr. Chau.
Good morning. Thank you very much to Mabel and also to Huiyao for putting together a really stunning and meaningful gathering. We always believe that CCG in this annual forum stands out as a beacon for dialogue and understanding at a very, very difficult time in all the world. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we gather today as fellow advocates for global peace and progress, as we just said, at a time when humanity is facing very complex and serious challenges. Trust and collaboration are fraying precisely when we need to be working together to combat the shared threats of health emergencies, climate risks, food and water insecurity, economic instability, and of course, much, much more. Forces for deglobalization, decoupling, and disengagement are rising everywhere in all parts of the world. Protectionism, nationalist populism, and great power competition threaten to unravel the hard-won gains of globalization and leave humanity more exposed than ever. The more we each recede and entrench within our borders and view others as enemies and adversaries rather than as fellow humans, the more we're going to create the very reality we say that we fear. This is the world we live in today, yet at the same time, I am optimistic, and here are 3 reasons why I think we all should be hopeful based on my insights as president of CUSEF, the China-United States Exchange Foundation. The first is this: when things seem difficult, taking small steps can make a big difference. Despite the increasingly strained US-China relationship and the many voices on both sides calling for decoupling, there are still enough people in both countries who believe in the value of dialogue and engagement, and some of those people are, of course, here in this room. At CUSEF, we work year-round to initiate and maintain trust-building measures. For instance, last November, we supported military-to-military leader talks that resulted in the resumption of military communications, as announced a few days later by President Biden and President Xi. Over the years, we've also facilitated the exchange of more than 2,000 American and Chinese students, and this year alone, we've hosted college delegations from Columbia, Georgetown, Johns Hopkins, and the University of Chicago. The point of mentioning this is not a roll call of what we've done, but as some kind of evidence that real progress is achievable when committed partners decide to work together. Second, we must engage with those who have different views to ours. It's easy to close ourselves off, build walls and echo chambers, and engage solely with small circles of like-minded colleagues and friends. And this is what I think all of us here appreciate about the work of CCG, that they do bring in very diverse and high-caliber opinions. This trend, though, began before COVID, spurred by social media, but was exacerbated by the pandemic that left us isolated. The impact of this loss of human connection should not be underestimated, and I believe is still a main reason we've seen a sharp rise in global conflicts. Thankfully, we're all seeing a gradual re-engagement returning between the US and China, even if overall relations remain strained. Official visits are increasing, academic and scholarly exchanges are resuming, and the frequency of flights between the two countries is gradually picking up. But true trust, as we all know here, only occurs if we're willing to listen to each other, understand each other, and find areas of common good with a diverse array of viewpoints and perspectives. And that is what we all believe mutual respect really means. Third and finally, we all have the power and the responsibility to be active participants in shaping a better tomorrow. Peace and prosperity is not easy, nor is it inevitable. It requires work, lots of work, and often hard work. It requires bold action and occasional leaps of faith. We can all build bridges, but only some of us can really move mountains. In January, during a visit to the Carter Center in Atlanta, I attended a service at the Ebenezer Baptist Church where Dr. Martin Luther King was senior pastor in the 40s and 50s and 60s, and where, of course, he advocated for racial equality, civil rights, and nonviolent resistance to achieve social justice, to end segregation against Black Americans. And as I listened to the sermon, which, by the way, was delivered by Senator Raphael Warnock for Georgia, who's now the senior pastor there, it really reminded me of Dr. King's own legacy, the personal sacrifices he made to fight on behalf of others, and the tremendous impact that his actions had for millions of people, not only in America, but right around the world. I say this because as leaders yourselves in government, international organizations, and civil society, every one of us here today has the power to shape the human condition simply by what we do and through the commitment we have made. I want to end by leaving you all with a call to action based on these three insights. As we embark on a weekend of dialogue and discussion, we each have an innate responsibility to act upon what we learn here in this room. So as you listen and engage, I urge us all to consider what concrete steps you can take individually and collectively to transform dialogue into actionable solutions. And really this, how can you leverage your unique positions to foster greater understanding and collaboration, especially in these times of geopolitical tension? Our work does not end here. We must leave ready to make tomorrow better than today. And I thank you all for being here and for your commitment to creating an improved humanity for everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Chou. The great welcome remarks. Next, it's my great honor to welcome our next keynote speaker, who is the Dr. Yaoping, former Vice Minister of Ministry of Commerce and the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology of China. He is to share his insights on China's economy and foreign trade. Floor is yours.
Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, good morning.
It is my great pleasure to attend the 10th Annual China and Globalization Forum. The title of my speech today is The Impact of Trade Between China and Global South on Global Trading Landscape. President Xi Jinping points out, in today's world, the emerging markets represented by the BRICS countries and the developing countries are rising together as a whole and is changing the map of the world in a fundamental way. In recent years, the trade between China and Global South countries have been growing rapidly, creating a number of profound changes in the global trading landscape. First, the volume of trade in emerging countries is growing and thus has promoted global trade prosperity. Last year, China's import-export scale reached $5.94 trillion, maintaining as the #1 trading country in the world in trading goods for consecutive 7 years. Emerging markets have accounted to 55% of all China's export destinations, which is about half of the destinations of Chinese export. Over the past 10 years, together with Belt and Road Initiative countries, China has maintained a trade growth rate of 6.5%, which is much higher than the average growth rate of 3.1% between China and the rest of the world. We are growing our trade relationship with a number of countries such as ASEAN, African, Latin American, and the Middle East countries. And the scale of trade between China and Global South countries are rising rapidly, which is shifting the gravity of global trade, which has not only changed the traditional trading landscape, but also shows the significant rise of emerging markets and developing countries in global trade. Two, optimization of trade structure in emerging markets has promoted structural upgrading of global trade in terms of the modality of trade. The share of trades that we can control has increased to 64.8%, and private companies in China account for 54% of China's trade. And in terms of trade products, the 3 new export items with electromechanic products accounting for 58.6% has seen trade volume increase over 1 trillion RMB, and especially for the first time, China's automobile export became #1 in the world. Last year, I went on inspection tour to the first automobile, second automobile, Guangzhou Automobile, BYD, Geely, and Chang'an. And automobile manufacturing in China is highly automized and intelligent, and 100% robot automatic welding, 100% pollution painting, and 100% big data assembly have been achieved, in particular by using 5G plus internet, industrial internet. We take full advantage of high-speed, low delay, and wide connectivity of 5G technology in order to achieve more efficient, smart, and environmentally friendly production process. Facts have shown that new quality productive forces is the main driver for the breakthroughs in Chinese automobile industry, and we didn't rely on subsidies. Rather, we rely on technological innovation to achieve breakthroughs in automobile industry. New energy vehicle development in China is not to address overcapacity issue in China. Instead, it represents the future direction of the automobile industry. It is an important contribution to global environment and well-being of humanity. Made in China is rapidly moving towards high-end intelligent and green development, and we are moving up the value chain and supply chain, which will create profound impact on the global trade structure upgrading and the changes of global trade landscape. 3. Innovation in the model of trade by emerging markets is reshaping global trading landscape. First, building free trade network of high standards has injected great vitality to regional economic and trade cooperation. And second, active developing trading intermediary products in emerging markets has promoted deep integration of industry and supply chain. And thirdly, rapidly developing digital trade. Cross-border e-commerce is an important part of digital trade, and in the past 5 years, cross-border e-commerce in China has grown by 10 times. Digital trade has become an important force to reorganizing resources elements and in rebuilding trade process and reshaping global trading landscape. Digital trade has made global trade even more effective, efficient, convenient, and diversified. And this will promote global economic prosperity and development and bring more opportunities for cooperation and win-win results for countries around the world. As to 6 suggestions on high-quality development, they're about policy coordination, optimizing trade structure, promoting digitalization of trade, and the green development of trade, participating in multilateral trading, rule-making process, talent development, and think tank development, strengthening cultural exchange, and the people-to-people exchange. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, as a member of the developing countries, China is a natural member of Global South. In the spirit of mutual benefit and win-win results, we will work together with Global South countries to seek more development and to create the future in a more open, inclusive, and innovative way so that we can contribute China's wisdom to the long-term prosperity and stability of global trade. I wish this forum a resounding success and wish all of you good health and success in your career. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Minister Yaoping. He shared with us his views on Chinese economy, China's trade, and the globalization process of China and the relationship of the three. Thank you very much, Dr. Yaoping.
On the China's globalization and its future and the foreign trade. The next keynote speaker is Dr. Liyong. He is the director of China Center for Contemporary World Studies, which is affiliated with the Chinese central government. Dr. Wang will contribute his in-depth thoughts on globalization and its future. Floor is yours, Dr. Wang. 下面有请王立勇先生。
Vice Minister Jiang Yaoping, Chairman Huiyao, President James Chau, and President Declan, and dear ambassadors and colleagues from think tanks. Good morning. I'm very happy to attend the 10th Annual China and Globalization Forum. About 20 days ago, I had the honor to attend the Global Solutions Summit held in Berlin, Germany, with Chairman Huiyao and Secretary General Mabel. Politicians, expert scholars, business people from all over the world had a very useful discussion on providing global governance solutions. Participants were worried about the trend of globalization now, and they have a sense of urgency to strengthen global governance. The current development prospects of globalization is not optimistic. So today's forum is a very important think tank forum, and will rethink about globalization and to study how to conduct pragmatic and constructive actions. This is a very timely move. President Xi Jinping pointed out that the world today is undergoing a major change unseen in a century, and the world has entered a new period of turbulence and change. So in our discussions, people often ask how this unprecedented change will impact the world. Some scholars and think tanks believe that in globalization, international structure, world order, and many other aspects, we're going to see historical changes. How to judge the trend of globalization and make the right response, and how to coordinate forces of all parties to strengthen and improve global governance are important in this respect. How do we judge the trend of globalization going forward? Has the trend of globalization has changed now, and are there are going to be new trends in globalization? Since 1970s and 80s, we have experienced an era of globalization, or for that matter, super globalization. However, since 2008 financial crisis, new trends have emerged in the process of globalization, and many new terms have emerged, such as anti-globalization, reverse globalization, semi-globalization, deglobalization, slow globalization, limited globalization, moderate globalization, etc. With the rise of populism, unilateralism, and protectionism, various voices against globalization have emerged. Not only has globalization slowed down, it is also worth noting that the authority and influence of many global organizations have declined. Various small multilateral organizations are prevalent, and globalization has become fragmented. Some scholars believe that anti-globalization or reverse globalization has become the main trend and will continue for quite some time. According to statistics, during the period of rapid development of globalization, the growth rates of international trade and international investment were generally faster than the growth rate of the global GDP. However, the situation has changed remarkably in recent years. The GDP growth rate of countries around the world has been slow. The growth of international trade and international investment has even been slower. According to statistics, the global GDP growth rate in 2022 and 2023 were 3.5% and 3% respectively, while the global trade in goods grew at 2.7% and 1.5% respectively, and global FDI growth rate was minus 12% and 3% respectively, which show that the global trade and the FDI growth rate were even lower. In recent years, global trade and FDI have really experienced the rare negative growth. What is more dangerous than slow globalization, reverse globalization, is that people's opinions are divided. On the one hand, people's understanding of whether globalization is beneficial has been divided. On the other hand, what is more harmful is that some people have begun to view country-to-country relationship with a negative mindset, poisoning the international relations, and is likely to cause misunderstanding, hostility, conflicts, and even wars between countries. How to promote global governance in the current situation? We can see that there are still some favorable conditions. For example, the increasing interdependence between countries in terms of economy of trade, and the increasing awareness of the importance of coordinated actions by countries to carry out global governance, and the international governance mechanism established and improved after the Second World War, and the positive and beneficial exploration of global governance by various countries and non-state actors have communicated good foundation for global governance.
But we need to see even more that the challenges faced by the global governance are even worse. And some of the challenges are actually constitutes the fundamental constraints to the good global governance. First of all, the challenges faced by world peace, the armed conflicts are happening very frequently, which also lead to the lack of security for the peace of the world. And second, the challenges faced by the strategic cognition or awareness. Few countries emphasize the threats and the challenges posed by other countries, which also pose to the confrontation and the competition among the countries. Third one is the challenges faced by the big powers. And the big powers, the big countries, they fail to coordinate with each other effectively. As a result, the international community cannot formulate a uniform and good actions. The fourth one is that the challenges faced by the governance mechanism. The international governance mechanism established after World War II actually has been challenged by the unilateralism and power politics, which lead to the lack of efficiency. And the fifth one is the challenges faced by the non-traditional safety issues. For example, climate change, environmental issues, and health issues, and epidemics, the energy insufficiencies and food insecurity, which lead to the failures of the survival of human beings in the future. And also can see the emergence of AI technologies also lead to some uncertainties for the human beings at large. Right now, the war is raging in Gaza and Ukraine. Hundreds of thousands of people have died, and thousands of innocent women and children have been mutilated so far. Global Security Initiative, Global Development Initiative, and Global Civilization Initiative, since its inception, has the purpose to tackle the problems of world peace and development, conflicts and wars, and the mutual trust and understanding among the civilizations. So the social community has to accelerate the political settlement of these conflicts and expedite the promotion of the cooperation regarding infrastructure, trade, investment, and industries to promote the developing countries' development and join hands to pave the way for the breakthroughs of the global governance, milestone by milestone. And to promote the global governance, we need the long-term awareness, and we need to have the correct understanding, and we need to mitigate the prejudice as well as the confrontational color of the backgrounds. And we have to be constructive to look at each other as a power, and we have to build up the multilateral world, which is inclusive and accommodating globalization of the economy. And we have to encourage the multiple parties' participation and to promote the consultation based on equality. We have to diversify the paradigms and pathways of the participation of state actors and non-state actors into attending to the global issues, and we have to enhance the voice power and influence of the Global South in the international affairs, and we have to mitigate the divide and confrontation, and we need to avoid the small multilateral organizations against the third party. We have to enhance the mutually beneficial cooperation, and we have to mitigate the peace deficit, development deficit, governance deficit, and trust deficit. I'd like to wish this forum a great success. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Wang Liyong, for an excellent remark. You have mentioned the globalization in relation with the future of the globalization, very enlightening. So next, I'd like to invite Dr. Yunquan.
Group and the president of Academy of Contemporary China and World Studies, which is supporting organization of our event. We are so grateful for the support from Dr. Yu, and Dr. Yu will give his thoughts on China-EU cooperation in the regard of global governance. Floor is yours, Dr. Yu. 有请于运全先生。
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm very honored as the supporting organization to attend this forum. And I'd like to give my many thanks to the distinguished guests for your participation, which is a very tremendously important forum. Of course, we'd like to give my thanks to Dr. Miao and Dr. Wang to pave this platform. This is the 10th forum about globalization, which is a very important topic. And through the previous discussions and speeches, especially presentation made by Dr. Wang and Dr. Chau and Mr. Wang and Minister Jiang, we deeply feel that the challenges in front of the globalization has come to a new cross point of the pathway. So we really need this platform of diversification and multi-parties participation. And I've been engaged and keeping close watch over the platform of CCG for many years. And it's fair to say that CCG is one of the most influential think tank platforms. So I really look forward to the views incoming in these 2 days. And we pay much attention to the global governance and the globalization direction, and also we join hands with the international think tanks and research institute, as well as some indexes about the globalization, for example, about the globalization trends among 189 countries' participation and their contribution to the global governance. We've done some research, and we discovered that in recent years, the counter-globalization mentality is on the rise, and together with the protectionism of trade investment, and we can see the rise of the trade conflicts and frictions. Although there are a lot of debates on the direction and influence of globalization, but from the current status of the trade and investment, especially the cross-border trade investment and flow of the manpower, we can see the anti- and deglobalization voice is even bigger against this background. We believe that is also in line with our conclusion, according to our study. And today with us, we have a lot of experts from international strategy community, as well as the think tanks. And you're very influential experts and individuals in the world. So it's fair to say that the trends and the future of globalization, we feel confusion, and we also have some great and steady support from our heart. And we believe the fundamental solution is that currently we must rebuild and we must reshape trust and confidence. And in the global governance, it is even more important to have the mutual trust and confidence. About 3 weeks ago, when President Xi Jinping visited European countries, and some think tanks experts and some of you are also holding the relevant side events talking about the globalization, and also we have the participation of some experts present here. We feel very honored. And in this discussion, we believe the global governance issues or the concept of global governance need to be re-understood, or the concept of the globalization as well as the concept of the globalization need to be reshaped and reshuffled and redefined. We have seen some changes, and due to the different considerations of the different countries, probably when they use globalization, probably they would use it by different definitions. So we need to understand these concepts from a new angle. I'd like to propose two angles or understand. The first one is about the global governance and multilateralism. And in the second Global Governance Summit in Paris, we had a discussion on the new multilateralism. So multilateralism as a wording in the beginning was supposed to promote globalization and a global cooperation, but at this current status, the understanding about multilateralism has been diversified and even divergent. So Chinese government is always holding up the flag of the genuine globalization based on multilateralism, and we are holding high the flag of the globalization based on balance, inclusiveness, sustainability. And we have heard some voices from European friends, from Paris and from some other European countries, that is the international order based on fairness and rule, especially when it is in the pursuit of the technologies disregarding the international order and rules. The power politics actually is not the nature of multilateralism or the new or good position under multilateralism, because it will exacerbate the difficulties of global peace and development at large. So in terms of economics and politics, there are some imbalances, of course. That is something we have to care more about. And the second area I'd like to talk about is the global development in relation with free trade. And Vice Minister Jiang, previously, he is the former Vice Minister of MOFCOM and MIT, and he was very professional, and the topics that he had proposed are also very inviting, especially when it comes to the new technologies and the new energies vehicles. These are the topics in the economic realms, and based on these economic realms topics, we can see that in terms of the actions, probably we feel still sort of divergence. And the professionals from the international multilateralism topics, we have found that we used to be the strong advocate of the globalization based on multilateralism, and in many areas, we are learning from the experiences and the practices from EU and the United States, and finally we become the contributor to the globalization. But right now, when it comes to the concrete and specific sectors and industries, probably we can see the differences from the wording initiative versus the actions that the individual countries have taken. So, as to how to build a vigorous pattern of growth, and which would be common win and benefiting all, that is a true issue in front of us. Some influential experts previously in some forum have proposed a so-called gaming. But sometimes it is not a zero-sum game at all, because in the end, probably both ends will fail or lose in the game. So in the discussion of globalization, this is the topic that we have to pay special attention to, and we have to take actions in many areas. We must coordinate, and we've been always dedicated on the common prosperity. And some expert and some leader in this area from EU and US, they've been talking too much, and actually we've also try our best to contribute to the prosperity of the global south and the globalization at large. So the think tanks and the media friends, we are in our area as the key influencer of the opinion, so we must take some action. And the CICG and ACCWS as organization were dedicated on these studies on globalization and cooperation among all. And globalization needs the communication among individuals, people-to-people communication. Especially yesterday, we have said that a lot of foreign friends have mentioned that we've been not talking with each other face-to-face for so many years. And the people-to-people communication and the tourism by individual, by the general public is very important, tremendously important. Without flow, people will not move and everything will fail. So I think people also must be governized on as the source. And the think tanks also have to governance on the source of power. And we have to correct our understanding and deepen our understanding between each other by people-to-people communication. And this is the common ground that we can set up, and the platform is what we need. And we sincerely wish that the forum's discussion can harvest fruitfully the topics of globalization, can result in some consensus. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yunquan from CICG and ACCWS.
Stimulating speech about globalization. Next, we would like to invite Ambassador Declan Kelleher, the chair of a governing board, European Policy Center EPC, and the former Irish ambassador to China and the EU. EPC is the cooperating partner of our event. Floor is yours, Ambassador.
Thank you, Madam Secretary General, Mr. Chairman, Minister, Excellencies, distinguished speakers and guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure and an honor for me to be here today in, as the Secretary General has said, my role as Chairman of the Governing Board of the European Policy Centre and also former Ambassador to China and also to the European Union. Let me at the outset congratulate CCG on the holding of this forum. Now more than ever, we need such channels of communication and expression. And I also want to thank the previous speakers this morning. I agree very much with what they have said. Effective global governance and globalization are crucial public goods. And China has a major role as a permanent member of the Security Council of the UN, and also given its economic weight and its global presence to play in this. And we must seek to enhance understanding, and I see this as a central role of the forum today, to enhance understanding and promote realistic appreciation of all positions in the search for international stability. Let me briefly give a perspective, a European perspective on things. 2024, this year, is a year of change and a year of crossroads. And from a European perspective, there are elections in a number of EU countries and also in the European Parliament. And these will have implications. There are also the implications, indeed challenging implications, of the elections in the United States too. So we have a situation that the European Policy Centre calls a kind of global permacrisis, turbulent geopolitical waters, disruption, a legacy partly of the pandemic, but also disruptions caused by war, including war in Europe. And here, I think it's worthwhile recalling that the war in Europe poses existential challenges for the European Union. Certainly, it's a very major concern of the EU at the present time. And thirdly, we have, and again, I agree with what previous speakers said in relation to globalization, we have the challenges to international commerce and trade, a kind of securization of trade, and a kind of general move to even a weaponization of interdependence. Remember that 30 years ago, the Marrakesh agreements were established, which led to the founding of the WTO. And we have taken much for granted in those 30 years. The benefits of interdependence, the benefits of trade, the strength of rule-based cooperation, and perhaps we haven't paid enough attention to protecting those benefits and ensuring that the importance of that cooperation is fully understood. But we're now facing a new environment, defined largely, as I say, by geopolitical factors. And these recent geopolitical waves have disrupted global supply chains and strained international relations. And another effect of this, another consequence of this, has been a kind of inward turn of economic policies. So a paradigm shift almost from focus on the benefits of trade to security concerns. And this has also generated a paradox. The paradox is that mutual economic interdependence is now seen in some quarters as a risk rather than opportunity. And again, I think this is an issue that does need to be addressed. So in brief, what should we do about this? Well, let me make a few very humble suggestions. First, we need to manage and resolve the geopolitical turbulence. And as I say, China has a major role in this, given its status, its weight, and its influence. The European Union, I speak from a European perspective, has a deep and extensive relationship with China, and we must seek to leverage that relationship to address problems and resolve the differences. And again, previous speakers have rightly referred to the role of the Global South, and it is very important that the concerns of the Global South are fully factored into this process. Secondly, economic pressures. We, I think, have to work to ensure fairness and mutual benefit in trade. Thirdly, the green transition, which has to be a just transition as well. This is a global public good, and it's a particular area for international cooperation and global governance and regional governance also. Global public goods do require public governance, and in this we have to take account of all stakeholders. Fourthly, I think there needs to be more international engagement on new technologies. And finally, people-to-people contacts and people-to-people relations are crucial. And this forum has, I believe, a very important role to play in this. And as I said at the start, China's role is crucial. And I look forward to a very rich discussion at this forum of how we can move forward on these global challenges. Let me once again congratulate the CCG on the holding of this forum. And as I say, I think today and tomorrow should prove to be very rich and very illuminating. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador Kelleher from EPC. Thank you for your great opinion on EU-China relation and global governance. Thank you all for our great keynote speakers and welcome remarks. I also would like to thank the cooperating partners who provide sincere support to our forum. They are Alliance of Global Talent Organization, the Armacy Foundation, Beijing CBD, Global Young Leaders Dialogue, the Adana Foundation, Multicultural Insights, and Shafiq Gabou Foundation, and the Global Foundation. Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mabel Miao, our welcoming speakers and keynote speakers as well. With that, we conclude the opening ceremony of the China and Globalization Forum.
开幕式到此结束，接下来我们将进行10分钟的茶歇环节，请您带好随身物品，工作人员将进行换台。10分钟后，我们将进行开幕式的圆桌论坛环节。
Now we will have a short 10-minute coffee break, after which we will resume with the first opening roundtable, Rethinking Globalization and Global Governance. One kind reminder, if everyone can keep their valuables and belongings with them, because we will be rearranging the seating. Thank you.
10分钟后见。